Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to another live this morning at a little bit cooler, doing it inside this morning. So if you can see me and hear me and let everybody, good morning to you, Nativity. And okay, so we got a crew coming on. Here we go. Lisa, how are you this morning? Rosa. Okay, I want another Catherine. How are you, Catherine? From Ingersoll. Nick, how are you? Marin, how are you this morning? And Anna. Okay, there was another And Maria and Jeanette. Janelle, how are you? Good to have you guys on, okay? Wendy this morning. Keith is on this morning. Good to have you on, okay? Hope everybody's having a great day. Travis, how are you this morning? Betty from Tiny Beaches. Now tell me where that is, Betty, Tiny Beaches. Or do you want me to look it up, okay? Cynthia and Melanie and Sari and you guys. Jerry, bonjour. Go Habs go, but we lost last night. Let me just say this name right. Lorraine from BC, alive and well, and it's early in the morning. Cheryl, how are you this morning? Okay, hold on now. I just want to say hello to this one name. Okay, let me just see if I get this right. Lucrezia Grace. I love that name. How are you? Let me know if I said that right, okay? And where are you from, Lucrezia Grace? Okay, Yolande, bonjour. Juliette, Angela, Maria, and Jake, and Jan, Valerie. You guys are great. Thanks so much for coming on. Cindy, Jordan, I got to stop one of these minutes here. Donna from Bell Valley. I know where that is, okay? And Angelina. It's good to have you guys. Okay, from Tennessee. You're getting the Canadian thumbs up. Okay. I don't know if you can see the headline here this morning. We're going to talk about Vietnam and COVID. Okay? Are you all COVID out? Man, oh man. They said, give us 2 weeks to flatten the curve. Here we are. What? 5 months or, well, March, the end of March, April, let's give it April, May, June, July, August. Yep, 5 months. Whoosh, I never thought. And all my predictions about COVID were wrong in terms of, I just didn't think it would last this long or whatever. And, you know, so I read somewhere yesterday, I think it said that COVID is 90% political and 10% medical. And you know what? I'm not sure if that's not absolutely right. 90% political and 10%. But let's talk about Vietnam. And the reason I want to do that, I think you're going to fully understand how a country with 90 million people in Vietnam, never been there, but they had in total 1 death from COVID. 90 million people, 1 death. And I'm going to tell you why. I have no doubt about it, and that's why we're going to sort of just put icing on the cake, if we can use that expression today. So why is that? Why Vietnam? 1 death. And they, I don't know what their all the statistics of their population in terms of aged people or whatever. People get older in Vietnam, I'm sure, just like they do here in North America. But it's interesting, and I'm going to give you Dr. Martin's take on this. because I haven't read it anywhere, but I'm telling you, this is key, because first of all, guys, listen to what I'm going to say. This is very important. The World Health Organization came out yesterday. Now, they've been wrong about a lot of things, but I think they're right about this. The head of the World Health Organization said yesterday, I think it was yesterday, he said this: there will be no magic bullet for COVID. And what he meant by that is there's going to be no vaccine that is going to be foolproof. Now, we know this by experience, like the coronavirus is a virus. Every year, they get together, the CDC gets together, and they get all the best experts on infectious disease, and they make up a vaccine for the flu season. Every year they do that. And they sort of take their best educated guess and say, okay, what strain is it going to be? And then they develop a vaccine. And, you know, you see it right away in early fall. You can go anywhere and you know, pharmacies advertise it. Come and get your flu shot. Right? Or your doctor gives you your flu shot. And millions of people in North America get the flu shot. I'm not even talking about whether it's effective or not. We already know how effective it is. Last year, 40% effective rate. And doctors look at that two ways. Okay? They look at it two ways. Or at least, if you go through the whole gamut of medical professionals, you'll see two responses to that. One, it has an effective rate of 40%. And some doctors say, well, that's a 60% failure rate. Right? So it's not that effective. But other doctors will say, well, that's 40% more than you would get if you don't take it. So you have two schools. And again, it's just facts. Give me only facts, doc. Well, the facts are, every year you can count on about 40 to 50% effectiveness on the flu shot. So when you're talking about the COVID-19 vaccine, and they're rushing through on these tests, they're racing to develop a vaccine, because a vaccine, in my opinion, okay, a vaccine for COVID is not going to hit past 40% effectiveness, like any other virus. But it might be mandatory. If you leave it to likes of Bill Gates and that, it's going to be mandatory. I heard a debate between Alan Dershowitz, who is a constitutional lawyer, and I think it was Robert Kennedy Jr., who took the other side on this vaccines. Alan Dershowitz says, well, if the government says it's safe and it's going to work, it doesn't matter, it doesn't have to work all the time, just like of any other vaccine. And Robert Kennedy said, well, what about our freedom of choice? And there was a good debate. I love debates. I love listening to both sides. And I'm afraid, for me, okay, just that Alan Dershowitz is right. Because I think that you're not going to be able, again, I'm not a prophet nor the son of one, so just understand when I'm giving you my opinion, I think that what's going to happen when they do develop a vaccine is that, we all say that, a lot of people are saying I won't take it, but you won't be able to travel probably to the United States without one. You might not be able to travel to a lot of countries without one. And so I think travel for people that do not take the vaccine, and I'm only guessing, but I think we have seen in COVID that all bets are off, folks. All bets are off. Like if you think you're independent, well, go travel to the United States and try and come back to Canada. You better self-isolate. You better self-quarantine because they'll monitor you. Now, I never thought I would see this, honestly, in my lifetime. It would be voluntary. When I came back from Florida at the end of March, I voluntarily put myself into self-quarantine. And we did it for 2 weeks. And I just obeyed the law of the land. They just said, you got to do it. And we did it. Did I like it? No. Secondly, at least I could go outside for a walk. That's what kept my sanity. But now they don't want you leaving your house. You can stay in your yard, but you can't leave your yard for 2 weeks. Now, all I'm saying is, if you think you are going to get away from a vaccine, I don't know. I'm just giving you my little opinion on, I don't know, the state is pretty powerful. And like what happens too is people will squeal on you. You didn't get the vaccine. See, today, I think the population, one of the ways they've shut things down is there are people who have tremendous fear. The virus to them is everything. The virus is the boogeyman. It's out there. It's going to kill you. And you are stupid if you don't wear a mask. And you are stupid if you don't wash your hands every 20 minutes. And, don't touch your face. And all these things. That's the new normal. And the vaccine, I believe, will be the new normal. Now, let me just bring this in for a second. And you know me, so I'm just going to reiterate what I have been saying since January, when I first heard of this thing. It might have been even at the end of December. I can't remember when I first saw it on the news. That, guys, viruses will always be around. Whether it's COVID-19, and the numbers in the States, I know they're going crazy but they've tested 50 million people already in the United States. Of course the numbers are going up. You know what? I might have COVID. You might have COVID. How would you know? Most people are asymptomatic. It has a 99% recovery rate. It does. Now, I'm not saying, let me talk about Vietnam for a second. In Vietnam, 1 death. Why? Why 1 death? Is it because they wash their hands? Is it because they wear a mask? Nope. Is it because they never touched their face in Vietnam? Nope. Is it because they social distance in Vietnam? No. 90 million people in Vietnam. Not near the size, not even a quarter of the size of the United States. They're on top of each other. The answer is they don't have metabolic syndrome. They're not struggling like we do in North America with insulin. That's the key. It's the elephant in the room. It's metabolic syndrome. Do you know that in Vietnam, I looked it up, their rate of obesity is less than 2%. They don't have... Now remember what metabolic syndrome is. Metabolic syndrome is a food problem. It's a food problem because it's an insulin problem, and insulin is a food hormone. When you don't eat, you don't need insulin. Simple as that. It's not complicated. Insulin, it does a lot of complicated things, but it's not complicated as to when you need insulin. Insulin is when you eat. And, when you think oatmeal is healthy, oh, you know me how I poo-poo that, right? A study came out last week. If you have steel-cut oats in the morning, a lot of people love that. Oh, doc, it's steel-cut. Okay. Do you know that your sugars will go up? You have a small bowl of steel-cut oats. Have oatmeal on, doc. If I don't have oatmeal, I'm just not going to go number 2. You know how often I hear that? I won't go number 2 without oatmeal in the morning. I have to have oatmeal in the morning. It's good for me. And I get the one steel cuts, so there's no sugar added, Dr. Martin. Yeah, but you have a bowl. Even if you're not diabetic, listen to what happens. A bowl of steel-cut oats, and your sugars in your bloodstream rapidly go up to, on average, 21. Yep. And in American reading, 378. I mean, that is dangerous. So you can imagine how much insulin you need. What does insulin do? You guys know this. What does insulin do? Insulin's primary job is to take sugar out of the bloodstream, because that sugar at 21, let's say it just stayed there and your insulin wasn't working, you wouldn't live past the day. If your sugars are 21, you're going to die soon. You're going to go into what they call ketoacidosis. Now, that's not ketosis, it's ketoacidosis, which is very destructive in your body. 21. Almost 400 in the American calculation. One little bowl, no sugar added, of steel-cut oats. See, people have the idea that these things are good for you. No, they're not. You want to get fat? Eat oatmeal. Yeah. Because insulin, remember, it can't leave sugar in your bloodstream. What has it got to do? It's got to take it out. Out. Come here. The traffic cop, right? I actually have an illustration in my new book, and I got a picture of a traffic cop, because that's what insulin does. You, sugar, come here. Get out of here. You go and park in the liver. Somebody this morning was asking me about milk thistle. What do I think of it? Well, I like it. It's not a bad supplement. But you can't out-supplement a bad diet. Milk thistle will not empty your liver of fat from sugar. It can't. Only you stop eating crap like oatmeal. I love oatmeal, by the way. I do. I love porridge. My grandma used to make me porridge all the time. I loved it. Is it good for me? No, it's not. We live in a different world, folks. And I want to bring this back to COVID. Sugar destroys your immune system. That's why COVID, anybody that died, okay, let me just tell you what the facts are. Two things that people died if they died of COVID. There's two things. They had metabolic syndrome, which is obesity. It doesn't have to be all of them. You can be skinny as a rake and be very unhealthy and have metabolic syndrome because you got fatty liver. And you don't see that fat. That fat, you see that fat behind me? You see that? That can be around your liver and you wouldn't even know it. You wouldn't know it. There's not necessarily any symptoms of it. But what fatty liver does is it produces triglycerides, which will give you heart disease, not cholesterol. Triglycerides. And triglycerides are very dangerous. So people that had fatty liver, they might not have known it, but they might have only had symptoms of high blood pressure, for example. That's metabolic syndrome. Oh, Dr. Martin, my blood sugars are normal. That doesn't mean your insulin is normal. The last thing to happen in a body is your body can't allow sugar in your bloodstream. It just can't. Because it'll destroy your blood vessels very rapidly. So, in Vietnam, they don't have that problem. They don't. Until they eat our diet. They don't, it's like our First Nations. They would never have trouble with diabetes if they didn't eat our food. Now 80% of them have trouble with diabetes. 80. In the United States, the African American population, 80% are obese. 80%. So they're sitting ducks for COVID. They're sitting ducks for COVID. I don't care what kind of vaccine they get. Now, people that died from COVID had metabolic syndrome, number one. And this is just right across the board. They had low levels of vitamin D. They had very low levels of vitamin D. Those are consistent, the two findings. They had metabolic syndrome and they had low levels of vitamin D. And as Tony Jr. likes to say, having low levels of vitamin D means you have metabolic syndrome. It's a marker. It's a biomarker, vitamin D. And because you're first of all, if you have low levels of vitamin D, you have inflammation. If you have low levels of vitamin D, you have insulin resistance. It's a biomarker. Every cell in your body has an antenna, a receptor for vitamin D. And the more and more we study vitamin D, the more and more we realize you cannot have a good immune system. You cannot have a healthy body at all with low levels of vitamin D. It's not just for your bones. So don't you think that's important what we're talking? See, this is my in nutrition, it's everything. It's everything. I come back to it on a daily basis. I reinforce this on a daily basis. COVID is about what you eat. Because the virus will always be around. If it's not COVID-19, it'll be COVID-20. If it's not COVID-20, it'll be COVID-21. It'll always be here. You're not getting rid of the virus. And the key is not wearing a mask. It's not the key. I'm not saying don't do it. Please. Don't come after me. Dr. Martin said don't wear a mask. I said, well, I don't care if you wear a mask. All I want to know is, do you have an invisible mask underneath it? Dr. Fauci said it last week. And it could be coming to a theater near you. You put a mask on, where does it cover? All of this, doesn't it? Your nose, your mouth. But he said you have 3 orifices for your mucosa. There's 3 entries for the virus in the body. Dr. Fauci said, you know, isn't it interesting that they were never talking about a mask in March? As a matter of fact, they said you don't need to wear a mask. Only if you're in a hospital do you wear a mask. Now you got to wear a mask. You want to go into the grocery store, you wear a mask. Okay? But you know what he said last week? Quote, well, if you have a pair of goggles, I'd put those on too. Now they're going to have to make new masks with goggles, I guess. No, seriously. But you see, to Dr. Fauci, everything is the virus. The virus. He's an infectious disease specialist. It's the virus. I'd love to be able to have a conversation with our health unit doctor, in all due respect to her. Because everything is the virus. The virus. Shut it down. Keep your distance. Do this. Don't do that. Don't touch your face. Wear a mask. And, you know, now it'll probably come. This is going to be our new normal. You can't go to a ball game. Kids can't play soccer. There's nothing in Sudbury that's open yet. I mean, as far as sports for kids. No baseball. I mean, but guys, it's because when you let an infectious disease person run the show, it's the virus. It's fear. But they don't talk to you about food. They don't talk to you about your immune system. Your immune system is key. Don't leave your house without it. Like not the mask, but your invisible mask. Vitamin A, which comes from vitamin S. Steak. Vitamin D, the sun. And metabolic syndrome, which is sugar and crappy carbs. Don't fool yourself. Don't fool yourself. And I already explained to you many a time why seniors are much more vulnerable to the virus. They're in homes. They're isolated. Tell me what they're really extremely low in. You know this right off the top of your head. What is a senior extremely low in? Vitamin D. Extremely low. They don't even care. They don't measure it. They're not thinking that. And their nutrition, ordinarily, okay, there's always exceptions to it. But they don't eat well. And they get no sun. True or false? True. So, you see where I come from? I look at COVID completely differently. And I'm not saying don't obey the laws of the land. I'm not telling you that. Please, don't come after me for that. I'm not doing that. Don't ask me whether you should get the vaccine or not. I won't comment on that. I don't know your immune system. Well, a lot of you I do. But I'm just giving you information so that for you and your family, don't get duped. Don't get duped. Because I don't like getting duped. You need to take care of yourself. It's almost like in the, you know, when you're in the plane and they, you know, before they take off, they always go through the safety procedures on this aircraft. Well, I've flown so much in my lifetime that I know what they're saying. You know, I usually tune out. I don't need to listen to it. You know, how to put my seatbelt on and that. But you know, when they talk to you about oxygen, you know, it says that if the plane decompresses and there's a lack of oxygen, the mask will come down automatically. You don't have to go and press a button. It'll just, once the oxygen levels hit a certain rate, the mask will come down. What do they tell you to do? Even if you got kids, what do they tell you to do? Put your mask on first. Put the oxygen first. Because if you're no good, you ain't taking care of anybody else. And you know what? I agree with that 1,000,000%. It's the same thing with COVID. If you're not in good metabolic shape, you ain't going to help anybody else. And, you know, a lot of people won't listen. Oh, Dr. Magna, I got to have my oatmeal every morning or I'm not going to go poo. Okay. Your poo is overrated. Ooh. I know. It's been drummed into us. Your immune system's much more important. And getting your insulin down is much more important. And never mind just COVID, anything else you can think of. So that's what you can do as an individual. Take care of yourself. And as much influence as you have on your family and friends, then you do that. You see, that's where I come from. I'm into full-time education, I tell people now. Private practice? No. But education? Yes. It's been a dream for a long time. I've always wanted to educate people. I want people to think. And one of the things that's happened, and it's being challenged very much today, but you have to understand, I come out of the 70s and the 60s when you never questioned your doctor. See, what's happening even in society, and I'll close with this, but just watch it, okay? I sort of look in the background of things, and I just want you to be aware of this. Do you notice now that anybody that questions, it's called conspiracy. Google monitors it Twitter monitors it. Facebook monitors it. The government doesn't want you to question them. Guys, science, the word itself is observation. You need to observe, question. But now it's not really science anymore. They call it science, but it's not. You get 10 people in a room, 10 doctors, and they're not always going to sing from the same song sheet anymore because they question. And isn't it nice, guys, that you and I can question? Question. Somebody tells me something, I want to question it. I'm not saying it's not true. I'm just saying, I want to question that. Somebody has been telling me about climate change. I want to question that. I just don't take it, well, there'll be no more polar bears, like Al Gore said by 2010, I think he said. I questioned that when he said it in 2005 or whatever year he said it. I question everything. That's all right. Question it. Nothing wrong with that. But today, you got to be careful because they'll call you're a conspiracy person. I'm not a conspiracy guy. I just want to be healthy and I want you to be healthy. That's all. I want the truth. What happened in COVID? People were metabolically sick. And that's why the only people that died were old people and those who were metabolically sick ahead of time. And 99% of the world recovers. Okay. Everything COVID. Eat your steak. Okay. Get your sun. Yes. Okay. So, thanks for watching. Share this with your friends and family. If you're not part of our Martin Clinic Facebook group, I'm going to put an invitation out to you to come in and join our private group. You're more than welcome to come in, and your friends and family too. Okay? Tell them about this podcast. Tell them about the live that we do. If they can't get it live, they can get it after. And we really appreciate it. We appreciate all your feedback. Question me. I get no problem with that. I take your questions. You know that. Okay? God bless you. Love you guys.